Hi everyone, I'm Luis Leiva, and I'm here to share my thoughts and life experiences so I can help you on your journey. What's up everyone? This is episode number 6 of the Luis Leiva Podcast. I'm so excited to be here and give you what's on my mind. Today we're going to talk about changes and how sometimes change sucks, but sometimes change is awesome. How can we deal with change and how can we make the most of it? So today I want to start by telling you a quick story of the way I was brought up, the way I was raised, and maybe a lot of you have similar stories. My life was full of change. Ever since I was a kid, I had nothing but change and more change, and I think all that change in my life has actually helped. So let me start off by telling you that I was not born in this country. I was perfectly happy running around half naked in Guatemala, jumping from roof to roof and climbing trees and all that crazy stuff that kids do around there. But one day, my parents decided it was the best thing to do is bring us to the United States, and I couldn't have been happier about that decision. Thank you, Mom and Dad. So we came, and my life was completely turned upside down. Went from being a skinny, healthy kid to being an overweight, not so happy kid, and not really able to go outside and play that much. I was in a foreign land, didn't really know the language, and my body wasn't used to the food. And it just was a difficult time for me as an adolescent child and growing up, and just everything was not my native. But then I also realized that a lot of change came because my parents always decided to move everywhere. They moved from apartment to apartment, then from town to town, and I never really had any stability. I never really had any friends that I had for more than a few years. And it just made me kind of like become more of a introverted person, I would guess you would say, because I almost knew in the back of my mind that my relationships weren't going to be long lasting. And I mean, even though that didn't really stop me, I really did have great friends at times, and we really did enjoy each other's company. But then everything always would change, and we had to start over from scratch. So I immediately had to learn how to become a well-liked person, because when you're the new kid in school, they really don't give you, they don't really make it easy on you. They don't give you any breaks. They're bullies at times in schools, and for the most part, it's cool. Change is awesome, keeps you on your toes, and things don't get boring. But it also, the downside of change is that you deal with a lot of nonsense over and over and over again. And but it also did show me that there were a lot of good people out there too. I remember plenty of times when people that I didn't expect to have my back and stand by my side actually defend me when bullies would arise, and I didn't know anyone, and I was the only outcast. People would stick up for me and say, don't mess with him. He's my friend, or he's with us, or he's with me. And it just shows that there are really great people out there. And as I got older, obviously change came about because I brought it on myself. And as I got older, I decided to change things up. I decided to do different things with my life. I went from doing one extreme of, being a barber, an entrepreneur, cutting hair, and being a person who did everything, wore every hat, to being what I never thought would be possible, a real estate entrepreneur who has multiple people working for them. I think at the height we had about 10 people on staff, and we have about 100 agents. And, that was the extreme opposite. And that didn't come about by just being complacent and being happy with the way things were. Obviously, we had to shake things up. And when you shake things up, things get uncomfortable. Things get really hard. My first year in real estate was so hard. I mean, I don't know how I survived. I lived off of fumes. I would still cut hair at night. I would have long hours. And those are the type of things that I had to do in order to be able to adapt to that change. But soon enough, change became normal. And the new lifestyle that I had adopted became very profitable. And then it just became a lot easier for me to get through the month and, pay all my bills and have the things that I needed for my life. Then I decided, hey, listen, things are getting comfortable again. I need to change some more. So then I created my own real estate company. I had that for a while. And then I decided that, maybe that wasn't enough for me. So then I went solo and I created my own real estate company by myself, no partnerships. I said, you know what, this is now putting myself on the line, because if this fails or if it takes off, I have no one to blame but myself. So Culture Estate was created, and that's when I really got the lesson that an entrepreneur should have. You have to do so many different things that you need to count on different skill sets. You need to count on different people. And it really has propelled me, I think, not only financially, but it's also propelled me from a knowledge standpoint. I've learned so much, and I've looked back now, and I don't know how we ever made it this far. I mean, it was definitely the grace of God, and it definitely was the excitement, enthusiasm that I was instilled with that actually made us get to the point where we are now. There were some really low days. I'm telling you, there were times when we first started Culture Estate where I didn't have any money. I gave all my money to our operations manager, and I said, make this last. I gave her $20,000, and I took 5 weeks off, which were not planned, by the way, to go and visit my parents who were living in Guatemala that had retired. I had a vacation of a lifetime scheduled because I was doing fine in my previous real estate company, but then change came about, and we had to think fast. So we literally opened a real estate company in less than 30 days. But then my vacation came up, so I had a decision to make. Do I go on this 5-week vacation, or do I stay here and stress the hell out? I decided to take my last 20 grand, gave it to her, said, make this last. I'll be back in 5 weeks. Hopefully by then we'll have a few more closings. We'll make a little bit more money. I went away for those 5 weeks, and I completely immersed myself in self-education. I learned about business. I read books such as The E-Myth. I read books like Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. I read so many books. I read Gary Vaynerchuk books. I read so many books. I was literally glued to books day and night. I think there was one day where I actually read, there was one book, I think it was Jab, Jab, Right Hook, that I read in 2 days. That was insane because I was one of those kids that hated reading. I used to lie about my book reports, and that's probably one of the biggest changes that I've ever made in my life, is that I became a reader. Readers are leaders, and I can't stress that enough, guys, how important it is to educate your mind. If you're not great at reading and it puts you to sleep, read first thing in the morning. I'm telling you, you'll retain so much more and you'll just get so much more out of it. If you don't have the time, get some audiobooks and listen to them in the car. So those are the things that I had to do in order to be able to make it in business. I had to educate myself more, and I had to work harder on myself than I was working on my business. When I got back, I'm telling you, I had so much energy, I had so much knowledge to share that we took the real estate industry by storm in our area. We became very well known, and I just did things that were not the same. I changed everything. I changed the way everybody was doing real estate in a normal sense. I marketed towards the demographic that was coming up, the millennials, and I did things that I loved because I knew that I couldn't be all things to all people. So I said, you know what, you're either going to love me or hate me, and I'm just going to show you exactly who I am, and I'm going to show you more of it, and that's how we grew our organization. But throughout the whole time, there's been changes. Since we opened our company, there's been some really, really, really awesome times, and there's been some pretty bad times. I mean, we parted ways with some great people, and we've gained a lot of great people along the way as well. And as I record this podcast, we are actually on the cusp of more change. You know, we literally just partnered with eXp Realty, which is the biggest real estate brokerage in the entire world. And I put all of my eggs into that basket. I put all my faith into this company. That was one of the scariest moments of my life. I'm telling you, I'm not even making this up when I tell you, I didn't sleep for an entire week debating whether this was the right move for my office. When I make a decision nowadays, it's not just for me. If it was only me, shoot, I'd be hopping around wherever I made sense. But since I have a decision to make that would not only affect me and my family and my staff, but we had about 80-some agents that we needed to make the right decision for. But you got to remember one thing. You cannot make everyone happy all the time. I had to make a decision based on the greater good. I had to make a decision based on where the future of real estate is going. And I had to make a decision about my happiness in the future of my family. So I decided eXp was the right move. This has been one of the scariest changes I've ever made. And I know for a good reason, because there's so many things that could go wrong. You're putting a lot of trust into a company that is 10 years old, publicly traded on the NASDAQ, but still, it's a new concept. Most people are like, EXP, what? What is that? Most people don't have no idea what we're talking about. But you know what? I wish I was there in the garage when Apple computers was being developed. I wish I was old enough to have invested in eBay and Amazon, when those companies were first startups. And, it takes people who have forward vision, who have vision, who see like the future. It takes people like that to have an impact on the world. It takes people who see things before they become a thing to become wealthy. Those are the things that I'm trying to help my organization with. I'm trying to help them see where this business is going. And I know there'll always be other real estate companies. There'll always be competition. And that's great because our country was founded on free markets. We have to have competition. We have to, because if we didn't, there would be no progress. There would never be anything better. It'd be one thing and that's it, and that's all you'll get. And there'll never be a need for updating it or making it any more useful than anyone else. So I like the fact that there is competition in other real estate companies, and one company can't be all things for all people. But I do know this last change that we've made to date has been one of the hardest changes that we've made. And I know with time and the passion that I'm going to put behind this decision, we're going to excel and we're going to do exactly what we have planned for. So part of this change requires branching out, being in more places. And most recently, we had one of our most important staff members relocate. And she relocated because she's growing the brand, and being in different places will allow for us to do that. So definitely going to be a tough change because, there's certain people here who have been constants, fixtures in this company. And without having their presence here on a daily basis, it's going to be tough. You're used to just looking over and saying, hey, can you help with this? Can you help with that? But those things are not here anymore. So, we are definitely adapting to change. And God knows, this is a brokerage that's built on a cloud-based system, which means that there is no need for an office. In a year, 5 years, 10 years, who knows? There may not be any real estate brick-and-mortar offices. We may just be all virtual, working from home, working from remote locations, working from anywhere we want as long as we have an internet connection. So that's the kind of change that will revolutionize an industry. And why am I telling you this? And why does this even matter to you? Because there's going to be change in your life, whether you like it or not. There is going to be changes in technology, whether you're an early adopter or a late adopter. So what you need to do is figure out a way to adapt, figure out a way to use changes and see the writing on the wall and anticipate before change actually has to happen. You want to be the initiator of change. You never want to be the one that's reacting to change. And the reason I tell you that is because the ones who actually adopt change late end up getting hurt by change. If you're one of the early people to adapt to something, a technology, a service, an industry, you're going to kill it. You're going to crush it. I'm telling you right now, you need to stop what you're doing because you're on a hamster wheel. You don't take time to sit down and look at trends. You don't take time to figure out what in your business can be improved. You don't make a list of things that are strange and weird. Remember, all change feels weird and strange at first. But why don't you figure out a way to actually make the change within your company, industry, business, whatever it is, within your family? Make some changes. Figure out what's broken. Figure out what's working. Figure out what things you enjoy doing and figure out what things you hate doing. Do more of the stuff you love doing. Do less of the stuff you don't. And figure out a way that all the stuff that you're good at is going to be impactful to your future where you can scale it. So if I love educating people, how can I do that on a grander scale? But not only how can I do that on a grander scale, but where's technology going? Maybe technology can allow me to do this on a grander scale. I used to be so hung up over doing speaking engagements because I love educating people. And I get 50, 100 people, 200 people in a room. I'm excited. But my videos get thousands of views. Some of my to-dos have tens of thousands. How to do this, how to do that, get 10,000 views. And I know that with enough time and with enough dedication, those video views will even grow more. And then the speaking engagements will come. Then those 1,000 people, 2,000, 10,000 people, arenas will be available to me. But my work has to come first. My dedication, my passion, all these things have to come before any of those things that are big dreams of mine. And that'll be my next change. That'll be something that I'll work on next. But I will tell you one thing. Change is a-coming. How will you react? How will you perceive change? Have you always been against change? And how has that worked out for you? Yeah, these are tough questions to ask yourself. But remember, you ask the right question, and you get the right answer. Thank you guys for listening today. This has been episode number 6 of the Luis Leiva Podcast. Hey, what do I know? I just share my thoughts, give you guys some advice that goes through my mind. Most of these words aren't mine. I feel that God works through me. Thank you guys for listening today, and I'll check you next time. Bye.